Hey guys, Lotus Streams here, coming at you with another Codex review, and today we got Thousand Suns. Now, Thousand Suns are one of the missing Chaos Space Marine specialties, so to say. The other one, obviously, being more specialized Codex for Emperor's Children and the like, but we already have some for Death Guard and the other factions in the normal Chaos Space Marine book. So this is a direct comparison to the index, since Chaos Space Marines did not include Thousand Suns and also does not have much interacting with that one, except maybe the stratagems, of course, because those would affect Heretic Astartes most of the time, and Thousand Suns are still Heretic Astartes TZEENTCH related and Thousand Suns with their keywords. So what we have here is a bunch of psychic powers, 6 new ones, and access to 18 of them. We have normal Warlord Traits, Stratagems, and whatnot. We have some new units, and we finally have some sort of a Legion trait, which is obviously something where they were lacking before. I mean, they had the 5+1 save on Favorite of TZEENTCH, but I don't really count that one because obviously Rubicon Marines and all the stuff used to have invuln saves just by themselves. Anyway. Alright, so let's jump right into it. This is going to be a very short review because I want to give you the opportunity to get the new information without just having to sit through hours and hours of talk. Alright, let's go. So, army rules, we have Death to the False Emperor. As always, we have Marks of Chaos and Demons, but the marks are all TZEENTCH and Demons are also all TZEENTCH. We also have this Demonic Ritual, no changes to the thing itself, and we have some sort of a Legion trait for Thousand Sun related units. So a Thousand Sun detachment is a one that only consists of Thousand Suns, so no inclusion of TZEENTCH demons, although they are in the Codex, you cannot use them. There is a difference though on the Zangor units, and the new stuff that they have, including vehicles and whatnot, all have the Thousand Sun tag and such can use this trait. So we have Objective Secure, which would be only for troops, meaning Zangors, Cultist units, and Rubicon Marines. And obviously that is great because they need something to hold objectives very badly, because their army, the entire army is pretty expensive, and the ability to hold something properly with fewer units is very important to a Thousand Sun army. And then the range of all psychic powers is increased by 6. This includes all the psychers pretty much, because everybody is a Thousand Sun, unless he isn't, and then he obviously wouldn't profit. But this will affect 3 disciplines here, which I'll list right after here, so we can have a look at this, whether or not this is very impactful or not, because that really depends on the effect of the power, obviously. For example, if this was an AoE effect, this would be huge, because it increases the bubble of the AoE by 12 inches. And at the same time, if it's a buff, maybe the buff already had 18 range, and you probably don't need the 6. So we will see right after here what this would affect. So we have 3 different kinds of psychic disciplines. The discipline of change, which is pretty much everyone, all the basic units, the Zangors, the Thousand Suns, and Terminators and whatnot, and all HQs obviously have access to this. And the Darker Hereticus discipline is only there for the Thousand Suns HQs. So we have Demon Prince, Magnus, Ahriman, Exalted Sorcerer, Sorcerer on Terminator armor and whatnot. And then the TZEENTCH discipline, which is, by the way, the exact same as the Demons, Chaos Demons discipline, is only accessible to demons. So this is Magnus and the Demon Prince of TZEENTCH. So all in all, we have good access, which is great. This is a huge bonus, because you don't have to run a different Chaos Demons detachment just to grab the extra psychic power from theirs, or for this matter, maybe even the Chaos Space Marine basic chapter without Thousand Suns, which wouldn't make any sense. So I like this change. Discipline of change. So keep in mind, this is very important that this discipline is good, because this is what the majority of your army has access to. So if these are good, we Gucci, and if not, the entire army will suffer, not only some selected HQs. So, and we have a bad start right away, because TZEENTCH Firestorm, the good 01 visible unit with an 18 is the target, 96, each 6 equals 1 mortal wound. To be honest, I don't like this. It's, I mean, it's more expensive than Smite, it's not very likely to deal more damage. No. Mutation. We have also a 7. Thousand Suns, non-demonic character within 3. You roll a 2d6 and you consult a table. So essentially it's the same as the Boon of Chaos, pretty much. The only difference is it is not a stratagem, it is a psychic power. So you can do some funny things with this, because keep in mind we have access to TZEENTCH, so we can reroll dice. We can reroll 1 die with the stratagems, so this would be a way to buff up your unit for pretty much free, and be very, very... There's a very low chance that you turn into Chaos Spawn, and a very high chance that you get in a Demon Prince. So, not that bad. It's influenceable, so it's not that bad. Glamour is 7. 1000 Sun unit within 12 inches is the target, -1 to hit in all phases. So, very good. That is a excellent power that you should have on at least 2 or 3 dudes. Doombolt is 9, so really hard to get off. Visible enemy unit with an 18, D3 mortal wounds, and half the movement stat, and they can't advance. Now this is something I like. This is, I think, something that has to be the future of psychic powers. Because dealing mortal wounds left and right is not very interesting to me. Halving the movement stat of a big guy, a close combat knight or whatever, is great. Advancing it as well. There's so much shenanigans now going on where you can both move and advance and then charge, and you basically deny the entire thing. This is very good because 1000 Suns are not very fast, so even if you're chasing something, having the movement stat is a big deal. The issue is, though, the big issue is 9. The 9 is so high. You have some things that could help you with this, with the increasing. But it's mostly very expensive units or Warlord Traits or something that is probably not even worth investing if you have the Doombolt. So I'm really sad about this. I think the power itself is great, but to get it off, it's kind of complicated. Then we have Manipulation 6. 1000 Sun model within 12 heals D3 wounds. Why not? So for some reason we have a touch of Nurgle in here, but it's just a 1000 Sun model, so it could affect anything, characters, vehicles, whatnot, Magnus himself. I think it's a pretty good one. You can include one of these in your army. If it goes off, it's great. If not, it's not a big deal. It's easy to get off. Why not? And the Weaver of Fates, which you already know pretty much, it's a Watch Out 6, and a 1000 Sun unit with an 18 gets +1 to the inborn saves up to a 3++, or a 4++, just in case they didn't have any inborn saves. And obviously this is great. If you have a blob of cultists that you can now deep strike in, by the way, and you give them a 4++, why not? Because keep in mind, these are not special dudes. All Rubicra Marines, occult sorcerers, whatnot, Sangors, shamans, everybody has this. So you can have access to a bunch of Weaver of Fates and then try to get one off every round reliably. So that was one very excellent. So all in all, I think I expected something worse, something more like Firestorm, which is just a bad spell in my opinion, but the rest of them are pretty decent and should be worth at least casting once, which is really, really important. The wider the variety is of these spells, the better for 1000 Suns, because of obviously Psychic Focus. You cannot cast the same power more than once, so the more powers you have and the more of them are good, the stronger the psychic ability of a 1000 Sun army gets. So keep this in mind when you value how they change point cost and whatnot. Alright, so now comes the deal. Does this affect, is this massively better if you increase it by 6 inches? And in my opinion, not so much. The range, making the range higher here only makes a difference because you can stay further away from the unit, or the unit can deep strike and you can support it if your Psyker is not very mobile, or you need to keep the distance because it's a Khorne army or something like this that will absolutely demolish you if they get you into close combat. But it's not such a big deal as you might think. Keep this really in mind, because remember, Thousand Suns can be mixed with demons and Chaos Space Marines and have a really interesting combo. So we have to value this 6+ range over everything else, over the entire Demon Codex, for example, which is pretty hard to do. Alright, so Dark Hereticus, what do we get here? Obviously we have better debuffs. Death Hex is a really strong debuff, and +6 to this is great. The Gift of Chaos is also a very powerful one, but very short range, so this would be pretty nice. And then Warp Time is obviously the biggest one, I think, because it is a super powerful spell. It is very short range, like the short range as short range as you can get. So +6 to this is essentially more than doubling it, so triple the range. That's big. I think it has more impact in here because these powers are very nasty and will most likely affect your gameplay the most. And then Psychic Powers of TZEENTCH. Obviously, Boon of Change, who cares? The Bolt of Change, not so much. Gaze of Fate, it doesn't get affected. Treason of TZEENTCH is a okay spell, because you can assassinate characters with it, and +6 range on this is pretty nice actually, because we have a variety of dudes that can get into range of characters with their discs of TZEENTCH, so that could be pretty nice. And obviously the Infernal Gateway doesn't do anything because it's most likely not going to do anything. So I think the effects on this are not very effective. I don't know, because there is no range here where we have an AoE or something like this that would help us very much. I don't know, hard to explain. I think the Warlord Trait is useful for smite and whatnot, and for the basic cast and measure range spells, but unless the enemy is camping really far back, I don't think the Thousand Suns detachment rule itself is so much desirable that we can't live without it. I don't think so. I think there is way better traits for example, Chaos Demons. Having reroll charges for everyone in a charge army is obviously huge. That is something that you wouldn't want to miss. In this case, I think it's so-so. Alright. Thousand Suns Warlord Traits. Any Thousand Sun character that is your Warlord can take this, and the first one is +1 to your in-1 saves, and Ahriman has this, so he has a 3+ in general. So most of your HQs have a 4+ in-1 save because they are a TZEENTCH demon and have a 4+ in general, or they are Magnus, or they are a sorcerer and they have the in this case Favor of TZEENTCH, so a 5+ increased to a 4+. So 3+ or 4+ for any of your HQs. Not bad. +1 to psychic power tests. This is the one that Magnus usually has, which makes him even more powerful in terms of psychic, because he essentially gets +3 to this, and then he can reroll once, as we will talk about later. So one psychic power extra is very good in combination with the ability to reroll so much and have some more variety to spells that you might not have. And considering you have a ton of disciplines to choose from, this might be very nice to have. Reroll Deny the Witch. No, wouldn't take it. Reduce all damage by 1 is not a bad trait, but it's not an awesome trait either. And then advance and charge in the same turn, and also reroll that charge. I like this. This is actually one of these typical tricks where you have warp time and you have a flying demon prince. He will advance and move twice, and then re-roll the last charge distance, so he can go very, very, very fast all of a sudden. This is one of these Warlord traits where I would consider actually making somebody else my Warlord, even if I had Magnus, because I think this is a really powerful move for the majority of the spellcasters. And then finally we have +1 to psychic tests, which I was talking about when I was referring to Dubolt. And obviously the other Warlord traits are just better, I think, in general. So I'm not sure if I would take this one. It's not bad, but the other ones are just, I think, more desirable. Alright. Thousand Sun Relics. We have 3 generic weapons which I'll not talk about because we're making this short, but we have some interesting stuff as well here. Dark Matter Crystal is once per battle, end of the movement phase. The bearer or Thousand Suns infantry within 12 inches gets the ability to Deep Strike. Great, obviously. Really, really nice, because this would apply to any HQ pretty much, because you have to have a Thousand Suns detachment and whatnot. And this would be another reason to get a Thousand Sun detachment, because you have to have obviously a Warlord in that detachment in order to get access to these Thousand Sun relics. And this one would be one that I really like, because the webway one is very limited. You can't spam it. You don't have enough units to fill up your armies and get enough command points. And obviously this also deep strikes something that usually cannot deep strike, which is monsters, demon princes. And in case that you don't even want that, you can also just grab some random Thousand infantry unit, which means, for example, you can take 30 cultists and throw them up the front, or Zangors, or whatever you want to do. There is some good options here how we can use this. I like it. Helm of the Third Eye. Roll a d6 for each enemy command point they spend. So for if they spend 2 points, we roll 1d6, doesn't matter how many. On a 5+, we gain a command point. So that's really nice to have. There is some detachments that can actually fill their battalions and whatnot really, really nice. And they spend a lot of command points, and every time you might be able to siphon some of that power in if they spam it. And then the Athenian Scrolls. Any double rolled when casting psychic powers means the power goes through. There is no deny the witch or anything like this. I don't know. I don't think it's bad, but it's too situational, and the other ones are just better. I mean, the Helm and the Dark Matter are way better than this. And as this, I think this artifact is a dead artifact. Even if I would pay the command points to take an additional relic, I would never pay the 3, just 1, and then I would take the Dark Matter and the Helm, and that's what I would roll with, but not the Athenian Scrolls. Alright. Stratagems. This one here you're not very interested in. It is all kinds of Chaos Space Marine stratagems pretty much. And that's all we need to say about this, because you already know these, and if you haven't seen my review, go there and see the stratagems. But we have some specific stratagems, and there's actually quite a few. Not all of them are good, but there is some really, really interesting ones. Because the first one is obviously webway infiltration. The usual, yay, we can now get movement on units that can't move very quickly. You pay 1 or 3 points, and you take 1000 Sun infantry, or 2, and they get the ability to deep strike. Obviously, following all the rules that you know, staying away 9 inches, more than 9 inches, and whatnot. But just straight up good, because Thousand Suns lack the ability to get across the field. So cheesing out some more with a psychic power, cheesing some more out with maybe Terminators, and then in addition having this webway infiltration. I mean, that's pretty good. That is something they really need, and obviously helps them get around the field. Kabbalistic focus +2 psychic test if they are within 6 inches of 2 other Thousand Sun psychers. For Chaos Space Marines, this is not a very good trait. For Thousand Suns, however, there's pretty much everybody a psyker, so this is pretty likely to happen. So if you really want to get that psychic tests off, and you really want your Dome Bolt, then this is not a bad idea. 1 point, why not? Warm Flame Gargoyles. It's a good one, old name from the Defiler and whatnot. With the goddamn Soul Blaze that is gone. Thank God for that. But 1000 Star Vehicle explodes in a 3-inch AoE, and on a 4+, the units around it suffer D3 mortal wounds. If it's character, it's less than this. It's -2, I think. But essentially, you're trying to pre-explode your vehicle and try to damage some units around it. That really depends what the enemy is. If the enemy is close combat oriented, this is obviously some interesting stuff. But even if they are close combat oriented, it's very unlikely that they send more than one unit for each of your vehicles. So if they really clumper around it, or you're really driving into the fray, you can get some serious damage off of this. But other than this, I would say it affects more the Walker type of units in your army. Alright, Soul Flare. So we have a 6-inch AoE, d6 4+ mortal wounds upon death of a Aspiring Sorcerer or Scarab or Cold Sorcerer. So that's actually pretty interesting. It's just an exploding dude bursting with psychic energy. Probably wouldn't use this, but I mean, if you really need that objective and your Aspiring Sorcerer is obviously part of an objective secure unit and you can just take out the last guy, it might be worth it. Why not? Fate of Mutation. You pick a mutation for Chaos Spawns. That's, I mean, it's not bad, but Chaos Spawns are pretty bad. And I don't think I would use them very often, but in case you want to run your Chaos Spawn army, you can now increase their reliability because you get the pick a mutation, and Chaos Spawns are by no means terrible in close combat. They are pretty nice if they get the right mutation. Vengeance for Prospero, just like the Flesh Change, a very, very, very fluffy but situational and terrible stratagem. Because you have to have Fight Phase, Southern Suns, using Death to the Forge Emperor, and only on Space Wolves. So this is like the most specific one you can have. And then Death to the Forge Emperor triggers on a 4+, which is obviously nice. Really, really good way to score more attacks, which is something 1000 Suns lack. And since you have some psychic sorcery and whatnot, but you have decent close combat capabilities due to the Force Swords and Force Axes, getting more attacks in is actually really nice. But then again, you have to have Space Wolves as your enemy, otherwise this is a dead trait for all purposes. The Flesh Change is also weird because it kills a 1000 Suns character straight up when you add a Chaos Spawn within 6 inches, and it doesn't cost any points. Finally, something where I would actually say, okay, finally we can get a Chaos Spawn in here. Because I really don't think you should pay points for this whenever this happens, but okay. Essentially, this is good to deny kill points because you're killing the guy, and that doesn't sound like it should count for missions. And yeah, I mean, other than this is pretty bad. Mutated Vortex Beast. We will talk about this, but essentially we get an additional roll on its table, and its table stuff is pretty juicy. I don't think even this is a bad trait. Cycle of Slaughter. So that's 2 to pay. A Zanga unit can fight again. And now we might say, I'm not playing Zanga, they're not getting anywhere, well, yada yada yada. Now Zanga units can actually be teleported around across the entire battlefield. And yeah, you can just try to assassinate some sort of squishy unit and try to surround them in close combat, and being able to fight again will obviously increase the combat effectiveness of a Zanga unit, and then also will enable you to surround said vehicle or transport and really screw over your enemy. So it's not 3 points like all of these, because Zanga units are obviously way weaker than the choose a random corn model, which will then go full beast mode. But for 2 points and cheesing out a Zanga objective secure unit to essentially disable an enemy unit of your choice, I mean, not bad. You can use this in this specific scenario. And then Coruscating Beam, very interesting. Once per battle only, so 3 charges and once per battle, so very hard to get off. It has to be a 1000 Suns Warlord too, that can't move in that phase. It's only shooting phase too. And then instead of shooting, you pick 2 visible points, 9 inches apart, and everything under this beam gets a 4+ D3 mortal wounds. So this is unlimited range, unless you're counting eyes as the limit, so you have to see. But you obviously don't have to see behind the line. You can just choose 2 points next to the rock and then shoot your beam through there. I think very fluffy, although in my opinion just way too expensive. 3 points is really expensive, but obviously the potential is there to deal a lot of mortal wounds. That's why it has to be expensive. But the only thing I can think of this would be used for is just denying your enemy the ability to deploy very narrowly or too clumped up at the start of the game. Because he would say, oh, well, maybe he uses his 3 points and just dishes a ton of mortal wounds out before anything happens. And since the range is unlimited, the potential threat is always there. So that's why I like this stratagem. If the enemy knows Thousand Suns, he will respect this, and if he doesn't, you might actually pull it off and try to murder a bunch of his guys. Other than this, I don't think it has much use, because it has to be the Warlord and he can't move, and a non-moving Warlord is most likely a bad idea because they have the Warlord trait and whatnot. And yeah, depends on the situation really, but you can make it work. Alright, now unit changes. Magnus is 30 points more, and now comes the bad part. Rerolling invuln saves of 1 is entirely replaced. Same for Ahriman, same for Exalted Sorcerer. Nobody has this ability anymore. So you're stuck with your 4+/5+ invuln, no rerolling ones. And instead, you reroll ones for psychic power rolls within 9. So your psychic stuff got a little bit more reliable, but you lost a lot of survivability in return, because obviously rerolling ones invuln saves while having up to 3+ invuln saves yourself is a pretty big deal. The other thing that got nerfed about him is he needs now a 12 for a 2d6 smite, but I think that is more reasonable, because it's very easy for him to get additional psychic support, even from Chaos Demons, for example. So having this a little bit nerfed is not such a big deal. The 30 points I also don't think are very game breaking, but the rerolling ones obviously hurts the entire Thousand Suns army and the role of each HQ. So essentially you're now running around with your reroll ones, and Magnus just gets you a little bit more. Alright, Ahriman stayed the same, but now he has +1 to psychic powers and to the deny the wish tests. He's still good. He still has the same nerf as Magnus, but he's good in himself. Exalted Sorcerer also has the same nerf, and all sorcerers in general, Terminator, whatnot, went up by 20 points, just because the power level of the psychic powers increased. That also increased the sorcerer's power. Rubica Marines, and also, by the way, Scarab Occult Terminators are now not paying extra points for the sergeants. So you are at 18 points for every single model, and same for these Terminators at 33 points per model. Doesn't matter if you have a Psych or not. So it's now the same. You can basically get more Psychers for less money. Great stuff. Other than this, they are unchanged in points levels or anything. And the Zanger's instrument is called a Brayhorn now, but other than this, they are unchanged. And then there's usually changes to all Chaos units. So if you were playing with the Index version before, which you obviously shouldn't, because Chaos Demons and Chaos Special Marines already got updated. All the other Chaos Demons and whatnot are in the updated profile and updated point cost and FAQ'd. And we have all the Chaos Vehicles being way cheaper than they were before, which is obviously just a general thing. It's not a Thousand Sun specific one. And that is pretty much all the unit changes. There might be some more additional ones, but I don't care about these. New units. We actually have 3 new units. We have a Zangor Shaman, which is 82 points on a disc, 4 wounds character. Psyker, just level 1. Nothing else to say about him, pretty much. But he also reroll once for Zangor units within 6 inches. So he's a mix of a Psyker and a Captain in one unit. He's pretty inexpensive. He has access to a great psychic power, as I already said, the Thousand Sun specific discipline. And I mean, it's not a bad unit. I don't think so. I think he's pretty decent. Only thing I don't like about him, he's still a Zangor, so he is very squishy. And yeah, that is an issue. He is very TZEENTCH. He has the very same problems that the TZEENTCH demons have as well. Minus the good inbound saves. Zangor Enlightened are 15 points per model, and you have 3 to 9 of them. They are also moving 12, so also kind of a jet bike, which is why they have 2 wounds, but they're still toughness 4. So keep this in mind. The Zangors are unchanged, but these guys at least have 2 basic attacks, and they have a spear that gives them +1 strength, and some additional stuff on their lances. But essentially, it's Zangor cavalry, if you want to call it like this. Not sure if you actually would use these, but just in case you needed them, now you have them. Might be something to make up for the fact that you don't have bikes or something. I don't know. It's a little bit weird. All of these are not so much interesting to me. Maybe they are to you, but obviously the fluff is there. We have a own army. We have own stuff, just like the Death Guard. I think that's what they went with, pretty much. And now comes the weird thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this thing is awesome. It has wonky rules, and it is a port from Age of Sigmar, pretty much. But it has some really interesting interactions that not everybody will probably think of, but I will, because I always try to mix and match my care specimens with demons and whatnot, and then specific stuff and TZEENTCH. I don't know. In this case, this is really, really powerful because of the way the rules work. So we have a Mutual Vortex Beast is 150 points in a heavy slot. It moves 8, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 7, toughness 7, 14 wounds, 4 attacks, save 4+/5+. Everything here so far, including the regenerating 1 wound each turn, screams it's a Tyranid monster. Pretty much a bad Tyranid monster at that, because it doesn't have a very good save. But the point is, it has interesting buff mechanics. It is a support unit. It is not a fighting unit. So in very, very, very close sense, it's a Myceptor. And Myceptor is very, very similar to this one. Also something that uses other things to its advantage other than its fat body. So it has a ability called Vortex Powers. So you can use a Vortex Power in the shooting phase, or you can get 2 of them, but you have to roll on a table with D6. You get a 2+ result, or this gets lower. The lower the beast is, the less likely you get it off. And if you have very few wounds left, you double the range. So most of this is range 9, 118, but it would be doubled to 18/36, so it has some pretty decent range there. But then if you roll once, you deal a mortal wound to yourself, so it gets more dangerous to use the random powers the lower you get. And then there's the breaking deal. It explodes, and it explodes really badly. It causes your d6 mortal wounds, even to your own unit. So it's a ticking time bomb, as you would expect, because it's a Mutual Vortex Beast. So Vortex always means it hurts everybody. And so essentially we have a strategic choice here of getting a safe needed buff to a gamble, which is more risky, because you could end up hurting yourself and gimping your ability to cast stuff and then exploding in your own face. And at the same time, we have the huge benefits that this could get. For example, 9-inch AoE, 1 mortal wound for everybody that is an enemy. I mean, not bad. Even on 18 range, that is actually really, really nice to have. Because it's a huge footprint on that monster. It's essentially a Tyranid, as I just said. So dealing some cheap mortal wounds, why not? But then comes the interesting stuff, because we said it was a buff creature. That is because it chooses a Tzeentch unit with a 9-inch and get +1 strength. Now, obviously, this is okay for 1000 Suns because they have some sort of close combat dudes. But what I'm thinking here is Tzeentch Demons. Tzeentch Demons really, really like +1 strength, because with the new changes to the Chaos Demon Codex, Flamers and Exalted Flamers and Horrors all have access to shooting capabilities based upon their strength, which would be increased by Heralds in their own army, but would also increase by the Mutalith Vortex Beast. So we have some nice synergy there. You could grab a Mutalith Vortex Beast just to help these guys out. Then the next one is the same. It's really nice to have. With a 9, you reroll failed charge rolls, or if you're already in the fight with the enemy, you fight first. Also, great stuff, I think. Makes sense for Demon Princes, makes sense for, I don't know, Terminators. Deep striking in, and you can pretty much choose when they deep strike in. So you can move up with your Vortex, can even advance, because it doesn't say anything about shooting, and you can advance. I don't know, I think it can move and still do the Vortex power. So you try to get into range and then make your Terminators actually reach a target, which is really important because they're so expensive. So supporting expensive units is always a good thing, because otherwise they might be dead weight for too many points. Next one is also awesome. +1 to AP melee weapons. +1 AP melee weapons would be, for example, Zangos, which would give you a -1 for chainswords, or actually for your Zangor blades, which would give you AP -2. So that's not bad. That's actually something considering, especially because you can, as I just said, teleport stuff around. That's something that works, so why not? Then the enemy with a 9 inches suffers -1 leadership, cumulative up to 3 in case you have multiple Vortex Beasts. Obviously this is meh. It can deal more damage, but most likely will not. But again, it has synergy with a bunch of Death Guard and Chaos Demons stuff, and I don't know. In this case, I would probably say in the 1000 Sun spot more the Night Lords, for example, where you try to go for a terror tactic and psychic shenanigans. That's where this would be very nice to have. Although I would doubt that you will pay 350 points just to reduce leadership by 3. But okay. And then the last one is a shooty one as well. Closest enemy within 18 gains rolls 3d6, and a 4+, they suffer a mortal wound. So pretty much a smite. A smite on a beast that doesn't have to have a test. It's just the luck of the roll at the end. I mean, not bad. I don't think any of these are like super bad. The AoE is obviously sucks because you won't be in range most of the time. The other buffs are really nice, and -1 leadership is not bad in any means. It's just there. So even if we go for random, there's not that many bad outcomes. And if you can push this thing further up the field, it's really good at supporting close combat. Obviously, strength, AP, and failed charge rolls is all close combat, but keep in mind the +1 strength is really powerful in a Tzeentch Chaos Demon army supported by this. So I'm thinking here Chaos Demons plus Magnus plus Mutalith War Beasts. Sounds pretty random, but why not? It might work. And a bunch of these spells that they have are really nice to have even for a Chaos Demon army. So we have some synergistic effects here between the two armies, which I really like. I'm all up for that synergy. Alright, that is the beast, and that's it. In the end, there's a lot of copy-paste here. Keep this in mind. This is not a full codex by any means, in my opinion. Obviously, they included everything and whatnot, but the majority of the army is still Chaos Space Marines. But in my opinion, that's how it should be. Chaos Space Marines are Chaos Space Marines, even if they call it 1000 Suns. I like the way that they try to go away from the TZEENTCH demon synergy and soak up too much of the demons into the Chaos Space Marine aspect, because which I really like, because I think there's different. They shouldn't affect each other too much, although they should have synergy, obviously. And instead they added some more flavor, just like the Nurgle side had with the monster, with the Zangors and whatnot. It's still very, let's say, primitive. I don't use this word very often, but I think it is the correct call here. And obviously the idea here is to get 1000 Suns a new kind of we love randomness and change and we love TZEENTCH kind of flavor. That's how they want it. My opinion is this is a huge improvement from the good old let's just bring some Rubik Marines and then we are 1000 Suns from 6th and 7th edition, pretty much. Yeah, but all in all, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the kind of shorter review. I will do probably another one when the FAQ comes out and everything settles, because that's when we can see what kind of lists do we want to run, how much synergistic effects can we actually make work in a list, how expensive are these lists, because remember 1000 Suns did not get any point decreases other on their two basic Marines. Everything else is expensive, and we still have that match play rule that annoys 1000 Suns to their death, that you can't cast everything as much as you want, otherwise it would be a very, very good army, obviously, just like Grey Knights. But I mean, everybody plays match play, I assume, because as much as it's fun to cast these powers, it's not as much fun as being on the receiving end and getting absolutely charged by everything turn one, because everybody can have access to the warp time power, something like this. But as I said, considering we have now access to a bunch of psychic powers, we can actually try to make the most of them, and we are encouraged to include demons in our detachment because we have access to the powers that use them, and it's only the demons that have access to it, so there's some really interesting interactions going on where you can run a Chaos Demon detachment and a 1000 Suns detachment and use them as allies as they are supposed to be used. There is some interaction, but not enough to mix them into one army. What I do not like about this book is the fact that they included the demon profiles in there. I know it's because of the summoning and whatnot, but it confuses the crap out of people that you could think, alright, I'm gonna take some demons in this army and then I will still have the 1000 Suns ability of increasing my psychic powers range, and that doesn't work. It's just the way it is. It doesn't work at all. It works with Zangos and the like, but not with these guys, and I don't think this is a very smart way to put it. I would put the demons at the very end of the book with the note that you include them in here, because you can summon stuff that would affect these in that sense. That would make more sense to me, in my opinion. But that's just how it is. All in all, I think this is still a good codex, because you can run a 1000 Sun army more easily than before, and it's not as awkward as having a bunch of chunky, very expensive units and then try to take Magnus and pretty much solo carry the entire army based on one model. I think that is not how 1000 Suns should be played like, and this is how they were played like before. So in this case, I think that's an improvement, even though there's a lot of copy paste. That doesn't bother me, because it's the same for the most other books that we have seen so far. Alright, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and leave a like if you did, leave your comments for what you think, and then I'll see you guys next time. And as always, happy wargaming.